The People Playbook is for professional business owners and leaders who understand business rises and falls on people. You will hear practical, real-world conversations on clear leadership, smart hiring, and building strong teams. All formulas for retention. Get ready to hear your professional peers and industry experts as they discuss lessons learned and best practices. Get that journal out. You'll be taking lots of notes.
Today, we are talking about leadership through the lens of career growth. Not just what leaders say, but what leaders do that helps other people move forward. My guest today is Jacob Cavazos, a respected banking and community reinvestment leader whose career has centered on service, responsibility, and impact. Jacob has held senior leadership roles in community reinvestment and corporate responsibility, where his work has connected business strategy with meaningful community investment. He has been recognized as an American Bankers Association Emerging Leader, an honor given to rising bank leaders who demonstrate excellence, innovation, and service to their industry and communities. He has also been deeply involved in nonprofit and community leadership, including work connected to education, student success, and community impact. Today, I want to look at Jacob's story through a very specific lens: the leaders who helped shape this phenomenal career. Because behind every strong career path, there are leaders who have created opportunity, gave trust, offered guidance, challenged growth, and modeled behaviors worth carrying forward. Jacob, such a pleasure to have you here on the
Thanks so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's such a reunion. we were laughing and telling stories before the show started about when we used to work together 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but it's a talk about origin story and talk about a great leader who I got to see and learn from so many years ago. Yeah.
We sure had a lot of fun.
I don't know how much work we got done, but we had fun.
Well, I tell you, we knew how to work together as a team for sure.
That's right.
We sure did, and it was just a pleasure. And it's been a joy to watch your career watch you grow and prosper and build a family, become a big part of the community. I know that was real strong values of your family, and I love that.
And what you, I mean, not to pat you on the back for the intro there, but what you said, I mean, really hits home for me because, no one does this by themselves, right? It's all these leaders and all these formal and informal mentors that you get to learn from and watch along the way that shape everything. And it's, it's neat to kind of think back and look back on it. But every step of the way, there's been somebody that's opened a door or just said something that stuck with you,
Yeah. I remember growing up, and I've shared with you many a times, my father was a youth development consultant, worked at the both state and national levels. How do we raise youth in a country? And one of the things I can remember him talking about is leaders don't always understand the power they hold for good and for bad.
Yeah.
And when you don't understand the power, you can either just overuse it, abuse it, or not fully utilize it.
Yeah.
Because you really have the capacity to build people up.
Absolutely.
As much as you have the capacity to tear them down.
Yeah, 100%. When you say that, I think about the last 2 years I had the opportunity to chair UTSA's Alumni Association Board of Directors. And one of the most incredible things about that experience is you get to speak at commencement. So the Alamo Dome, there's 30,000 people there, and you're giving this address. And President Amy will get up there to kick things off, and it's just this roar of the crowd. And he gets up there and he's asking, well, stand up if you're a veteran, and roar of applause and cheer, and stand up if you're a student athlete. He's recognizing these groups that are interesting. And the last one, every time I had the opportunity to do this, was stand up if you're a first generation graduate.
Oh, wow.
And 60, 70% of the graduates stand, and the Alamo Dome roars in applause and just erupts. Something that's akin to like someone scoring a touchdown, and that's the note. And it makes me, every single time I tear up and get emotional, because it's like, this is the moment that trajectories of families are changing.
Right.
And
that's right.
And
cycles are broken.
Yeah. And it's incredible. And so, from the alumni seat of you're welcoming this community into what is being built and what you're doing. And talk about from a leadership perspective of not only, yes, you're leading, these alumni, but like those individual graduates are then leading by examples in their families and changing trajectories of families and communities. It's just an incredible experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that you're supporting them in that commitment because it's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And how do I give them the strength?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this episode, Jacob, we're going to talk about employee growth as one of the clearest ways that we can measure leadership and even community members' growth, right? I love that connection because a leader's job is not only to manage our work, it's to build tomorrow's capability, which is what you just said, right? And so that happens through everyday behaviors.
Yeah.
Those behaviors of coaching, listening, setting high expectations, giving access to the room, helping people understand not only what they do, but how their work matters. That's important. And I think that your story really shares and exemplifies the importance. And so when we ask what makes a good leader, I don't think it's about theory. I think it's about what did you experience and what did leaders do that pushed you forward on your career?
Yeah.
And leaders for those alumni that are their first graduates, and to watch people that enter a career, how do they progress? All of that is not done alone, as you said. So the question that I would like to ask, because I don't think that leadership is just supporting others in leadership isn't just a feel good. I think it's a fundamental element of good business. Yeah. So when you look back over your career and think about the leaders who saw potential in you before you saw it in yourself, because you didn't always see yourself as this strong leader who was going to have an impact on the community and business.
Oh yeah, of course not. Yeah.
Right. But what did they do that really made a difference for you?
Yeah. And it's funny because there's been so many. It's hard to like say, oh yes, this person did. It's just and it's big things and it's little things, right? And I think about so I've had family members that would iterate to you that sometimes folks aren't going to remember what you say, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. And I've had so many leaders like that as well. It's just like instilled confidence in you because of the way they've made you feel. And I got to tell a story recently. I had right when we worked together, and I took my first big boy job at Frost Bank, and I was there a little while, and you're still like in your early 20s, right? You're a little confused. You don't really know, is this the path that I should be on? Right. I see other people, my friends doing different things, or I see others having success in other sandboxes, and you're like, God, maybe I should be doing something different. And my family comes from education. My dad, my teacher, and my mom taught for a while. Siblings, did. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll go back to college and get a alternative teaching certification. So I did that, and that would have been 2008. And there's a recession, and then no school districts are hiring. So like, well, at least I still got my job. But I had this leader who, in my first job at Frost Bank, was a personal banker, opening accounts, and it was. I still say to this day, hardest job I ever had. Like it's just you're always on, you're always engaged, you're always taking care of customers, and I had a branch manager at the time, and she's since passed, and I got to tell this story to her widower recently, and it just. I'm going to try and keep it together now because I had a hard time keeping it together in front of him. But you really took me aside, and I'm sure she would do this all the time for anyone that worked for her, anyone in her orbit. And I remember her tapping me on the shoulder one day. She's like, I know you did this teaching certification program. I know it hasn't worked out, but did you know that there's an area within the bank that part of what they do is go into schools and teach financial literacy, financial education. I thought like, oh, I had no idea. I didn't know that existed. And so she made an introduction for me to the person who ran the department. And then anytime there was an opportunity to do that, I raised my hand and she, to her, graciousness, allowed me to go and do it too. And would cover for me. And so talk about a leader that's also going to follow up their words with actions, right? She it's hard to staff a branch and you're covering and lunches and all these things. So she allowed me to stretch and grow and have these opportunities by stepping in and covering for me for the hour and a half I would be gone. And because of that, that probably went on for a year. when a position opened in that department, I got a call like, hey, I think you should apply for this. And it was because of this little moment where a leader said, you know what you could do? You know what you could think about? You know what I think you should think about this. And that put me on a path that I would not even know existed otherwise. This whole exposure into community reinvestment, and that the new leader then that I moved into that department. I remember my very first day with her driving around the west side of San Antonio, and she said, working in community reinvestment, you're going to see the city in a completely different way. You're going to see things that you've never seen before. And I thought, I'm from here. I went to college here. I think I'm good. I think I'm okay. And she could not have been more correct. I was whatever analogy you want to use, pull the sheets back, on just the jewels in our city, the challenges in our city, the opportunities to invest. And so the opportunities to grow. And so that just completely put me on a different path. But again, it was one leader saying one thing at one moment in time that even just set that on the direction.
And you mentioned small thing. And I don't know that those are small things.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I think those are huge for a leader to look at those that they lead and be able to recognize their strengths and their potential is big. Yeah. And the other thing I think that really is important coming out of that example is you were in an environment where that was really encouraged. It was always about the big picture, not the transaction.
Right. Yeah.
And so leaders were encouraged not to make sure Jacob does his work, but how do we grow Jacob in a way that serves us 20 years down the road?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a very different culture than, to your point, did you do your work today?
Yeah. Did you open X amount of accounts? Did you do X amount? Yeah. Yeah.
That's easier to measure.
Right. Right.
How many widgets did you make? How many were right? How many this? How many hours were you in your seat?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are the things that we default to when we don't know otherwise how to be measured.
Right. Yeah.
And I would argue that it's not a little thing, right?
Yeah.
It's huge that I, as a leader, am measured by my employees' growth. And if I'm growing people and other departments are tapping you and saying, come over here, I'm doing my job.
Yeah. And I think you could even take that one step further. The department that I went for, that Donna Normandin was her name, the woman who ran that department of community reinvestment for the state. I think she had that same mindset of it didn't have to be, okay, I'm going to grow this individual within the confines of this department. I then left because there was nowhere else to, and there was an opportunity to go and grow even bigger and further. And she really had the view of, gosh, this is impacting the city. This is impacting a region. This is impacting this, like what you're going to be able to do beyond these four walls is even greater. And 6-7 years later, end up boomeranging back and adding value, in a different space. So
Jacob's a boomerang.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think to your point of, we're blessed to, I think, have folks come into our lives that have that long-term view. And the run, I'm looking at the airport right here. The runway is longer than
we are looking at the airport.
The runway is longer than maybe just the widgets that you're creating, to your point. Yeah.
And I would say that we would summarize that those are leaders that lead through purpose versus a job.
Right.
Right. This is Coach Cora with Jacob Cavazos, SVP, Director of Fair and Responsible Banking, on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, discussing ways that leaders have impacted him and his career. Was there a moment when a leader gave you an opportunity that stretched you beyond your comfort zone and that shaped your confidence or capability?
Oh, sure. Like, which day are we talking about, right?
Because confidence has to be grown.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every single day, I feel like you're, if you're not stretching yourself, if you're not, getting outside your comfort zone a little bit. But absolutely. I think about when I moved initially from Frost to Broadway, and it was an opportunity to kind of go from the number 2 seat to the number 1 seat in an area and look at community reinvestment. And I remember getting a phone call from Mr. Cheever, who is, this is before he passed, but was still at the time he's had retired a CEO and owned the bank, and he getting a phone call from him saying the last words were "Don't screw it up." But I think folks that know him will find that funny and humorous because that was just kind of how he approached things. But it did. I mean, I had there's a regulatory component to that position. I'd never worked directly with examiners before. Somebody had to, really instill confidence in me that, okay, you're not gonna say the wrong thing. You're gonna frame things in the appropriate ways. You're gonna think strategically in every single thing that this bank does. From a community reinvestment, from a community service, community lending, that it's all moving towards a North Star that is, framed in this way. And so, an opportunity to think strategically, an opportunity to think beyond the widget, right? And then, from there, just opportunity after opportunity, I ended up getting an appointment to Texas Bankers Association to their, government relations committee. And it's just like, wow, I've never worked, at that level of, working with elected officials nationally, statewide. You're working with the CEOs of banks from across the state to, advocate for community issues and things that are affecting, like, okay, that's a completely different skill set, and that's a completely different network, and that's a completely different way of thinking. So again, kind of like stretching beyond those bounds. And then the other one that kind of pops into my mind is, you kind of mentioned this earlier, the nonprofit board service thing. Eventually it got to the point where I was, I'm currently chairing Communities and Schools of San Antonio's board. And so that they're celebrating 40 years this year of impacting, youth in the community and in underserved areas and through wraparound services. But there became a point, and I remember asking one of the executives at Broadway, like, I'm getting asked to chair boards, to lead boards of folks that are much more accomplished than me, of these boards of directors, of folks where you're in the room and you're not the subject matter expert, let alone, but you're going to be put in the seat to lead people, to lead organizations, to lead budgets, to lead mission. And how do I don't know. Can I do this? Yeah. And I remember this, Steve York was his name, sat me down. I'm just like, you can absolutely do it. Like, nice. And he was approaching retirement, but he was just like, this is the next step. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel like you're not the smartest person in the room.
That. Yeah.
But this is how you learn. This is how you grow and ask questions and be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Yeah. And it has just been a blessing to my life to not only be in these positions, but be with the people who have the heart for these missions, and it's just been a huge blessing to be in those spaces.
Well, when I hear from that story is when we step into roles that we're not comfortable with, having people around us that believe in us gives us the courage that we may not have our own.
Yeah.
And they lend us confidence. Yeah. If we've got people on our team that are lifting us, we're more likely to take that step.
Yeah.
Where if I feel alone and nobody thinks I can do it, that's pretty intimidating, right? You remember Larry Mills.
Yeah.
I remember Larry Mills drugged me into an executive team where I was used to working with director, mid-level. Right? They would come up with the strategy. I was part of the implementation. Yeah. And he pulled me into that room, said, you're going to talk strategy, the executive. Yeah. And the first time he pulled me into that room, when it was over, he said, why are you nervous? And I had some really good excuses, by the way. I'm a quick thinker. And he said, you have every right to be here.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely competent enough to be in here.
Yeah.
You need to believe it.
Yeah.
And he was very direct. And it was shocking to me that he saw that I wasn't the normal, confident, fiery little redhead, that I was a little more reserved in not taking control. And he fired that little redhead up. You are absolutely. Yeah. And we need those people
absolutely
in our life to say, you are.
Yeah.
And especially, as an executive coach, I say all the time, if you really want to test your leadership skills and push the boundaries, go lead a nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go lead without authority, without formal title.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes about you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I've had folks over the years ask, if they're preparing for or they want more experience in preparing for the next. And I frequently ask, have you looked at the nonprofit space? Because if you're looking for experience, you're going to wear a lot of hats. And if you're looking to do something soup to nuts, that's where it's going to happen. And so if you truly are looking to garner that experience, that might be a place where you
absolutely
are able to pick up all these aspects of, I know you and I have talked about before, tools in your tool belt. If that's truly what you're looking to do, that's a space where you can learn it. That's a space where it's available.
And you had a leader that recommended ask questions.
Yeah.
Because to your point, they may put you in the chair to run the place, but on that board is a lot of experience.
Yeah.
For you to learn how to manage all of that, but to learn.
Yeah.
Because when you go to these nonprofit boards, there's a lot of experience that sits on those boards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I've had the privilege over the years of speaking at a lot of different schools, high school. I teach an adjunct course UTSA now, but so I have a lot of opportunities to interact with students, and at those ages, and I'm sure if your listeners think back and put themselves in those positions of like asking a question is the worst thing in the world that you can, that you want to do. I don't want to look like I don't know.
Right.
And I always try and get that message across to so many of those students that asking the question is the best thing in the world.
Right. That's right.
Not only just showing that you're engaged in what is happening, but getting clarity for others as well as yourself. Thinking of something that may lead you down a different path. And then the other piece of that is, to your point about all that experience that sits on those boards, being able to pull that knowledge when it's appropriate, when it fits. Like, you get in where you fit in a lot of times, and there's so many people that bring this value. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's easier to engage people for help because people love to help than it is to be combative to trying to push your way.
Exactly.
Right? This is Coach Cora with Jacob Cavazos, SVP, Director of Fair and Responsible Banking on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And we're discussing ways in which leaders have impacted a very successful career and lifted him up. We have just a couple minutes left. If you could really quickly share with all of our listeners today, there's some leaders out there listening right now, and they want to have an impact on those they lead and do the things that leaders have done for you. What is one thing somebody could practice this week to help somebody on their team grow? Yeah,
I thought about this question a bit, and one thing that sticks out in my memory, I worked for a great CEO at one point, and he chaired, David Boney was his name. He chaired the United Way campaign one year, and I was on an emerging leaders council for that, and so I got to interview him much like this in that setting. And I remember asking him it wasn't even part of the interview, but just like, okay, as I'm like in this council with a group of emerging leaders in the city, like what advice can I give to that? Like, well, from your perspective, and I just love this because I constantly find myself reiterating it and reminding myself of it, of kind of be where your feet are. And I think every leader, at least in some of the things I've seen and experienced, if you've got that drive, if you've got that motivation behind you, you're always thinking, what's next? Well, the next title, the next challenge, the next opportunity. It's climbing, it's pushing, it's looking, it's evaluating. And he's like, never again in your life are you going to be in this moment where your feet are in this position and impacting where you. And so I think, we've talked a lot about just here in the last 20 minutes on, leaders doing wonderful things that train people for the next thing. But there's also that element of like, how do you get folks to be where their feet are and impact the moment that they're in right now? And I carry that with me because I think it's so true. And there's a personal aspect of it of, hey, you're young and you're in this, you're going through, weddings and babies being born and things like that together with a cohort of folks. You're with a cohort of folks as you're growing and getting promotions in your careers and things like that. But you're never in that moment again. And so cherishing kind of being where your feet are sometimes is huge.
And respecting, I can have impact where I am today. I don't have to wait for tomorrow.
Exactly.
I can impact today. Thank you, Jacob, so much for joining me today. And this conversation is such a meaningful reminder that careers are not built by talent alone. They are shaped by opportunity, by trust, by feedback, by encouragement, challenge, and leaders who are willing to invest in people way before the outcome is guaranteed. And what I appreciate about your story is that it helps us see leadership in action. It's not a title, it's not a position, it's a set of behaviors that people brought every day. And it significantly has not only impacted your career, your family, but certainly the city of San Antonio. Thank you. And this is exactly what the People Playbook is all about, recognizing the people factor behind better business, better leadership, and better communities. Thank you, Jacob, again for sharing your story and your insights with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Cora. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the People Playbook. For more information, Coach Cora can be found on LinkedIn and at CoachCora.com. Let's meet here next Saturday, 2 p.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Leadership growth starts with self-awareness, but sometimes the most valuable insight comes from understanding how others experience your leadership. For a limited time, Cora Laning Consulting is offering the People Playbook listeners a special 360 Leadership Insight package for $495. This package includes a 360 assessment designed to gather feedback from the people around you, giving leaders a clear review of their strengths, blind spots, communication style, and opportunities for growth. But this is not just about receiving feedback. It is about knowing what to do with it. The package also includes a one-on-one interpretive coaching session with Cora Laning, where participants walk through their results in a thoughtful, practical way. From there, Cora helps create a personalized action plan to turn insight into intentional leadership growth. Whether someone is a new leader, an experienced manager, or preparing for the next level, this process can help them lead with greater clarity, confidence, and impact. This special offer is available for the People Playbook listeners for only $495. To learn more or schedule a 360 Leadership Insight package, go to CoachCora.com and click on Book a Call.